everyone. My name's Shayna Hasty. I am the QMHP MCOT team lead for Denton County MHMR Center. I'm here today with some of our executive staff to discuss burnout in not only your professional life, but in your personal life as well. First, we have our Director of Behavioral Health, Dr. Constance Siegel. Second, we have our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Meena Vyas. Thirdly, we have our Senior Director of Behavioral Health Services, Pham. And last but not least, we have our Chief Clinical Officer, Keelah. The first question, how do you recognize when you're beginning to experience burnout yourself? And what are some of the steps you do when that happens?
So for me personally, I start noticing it when I stop prioritizing self-care. I throw myself a little bit more into odd work hours, getting fast food more, not cooking as much. So really just taking the hit in other areas because I'm putting too much towards one thing. So I take that as a signal typically that I'm kind of running on empty, running on fumes. And so when I do notice that, I try to slow down and be more intentional with what I'm doing. So recentering, even if it's something small, like taking a 10-minute break, at work and forcing myself to do something not work related. So whether that be like getting on, watching like 10 minutes of a reality show or something. I enjoy those. So something that is just for me, that's not, kids, family stuff, work stuff, something that's not inherently a task. I try to force into my day.
That's a great response.
Thank you.
Perfect. So as for me, I have kind of that, I don't want to get up in the morning. I want to sleep in a little longer. I can cut it, if I know to the minute what it takes me to get ready and then to have my drive. And if I let that go and don't pay attention to it, then I kind of have what I call the Friday night slump. On Friday night, I am already dreading going into work on Monday. It really makes me start thinking, and it almost ruins the weekend because you're having that. So I like Jess's show idea, but I'll tell you, I'm a podcast person. And so I like to use my time going home and to work to kind of debrief and either listen to books or really great podcasts.
Side question, what podcast do you listen to? Oh, you're muted.
Well, sorry, I have to admit, I am like a true crime serial killer junkie. And so if you need a long list of those, if that's your jam, call me and I have got you.
Will do. Okay, next.
All right, so I'm Dr. Vyas, and so how do I recognize that I'm stressed? Well, generally I have a pretty high tolerance being in the field for such a long time. However, when I notice that the tasks that I usually do or things that don't used to annoy me, they get to me. And I feel frustrated or annoyed, and that will be inside. I still may not express it outside, but I can feel it. I am aware of it. And sometimes I also notice that I'm not enjoying the same task that I normally enjoy or feel enthusiastic about. So I keep an eye on it. And what do? I have to find out that, okay, how long have I been feeling about the same task or any new task? What's going on? I ask myself that question, what changed? And so try to find out any factors that may be playing role and see if there is a way I can mitigate those. And sometimes I notice that maybe I have too many projects, both at work and at home. And so I had to realize that I had to prioritize that these things need to be done. Laundry can wait, or cleaning closet organizing can wait, but I need to focus on this. Also, I try to do mindfulness, meditation, and I think Jess and Constance, they also talked about exercise and doing those things. But sometimes finding time can be challenged. So I have to squeeze things in. And so I like to watch any comedy shows, things like that. So I do that when I'm on the treadmill. So now I'm enjoying the comedy, relieving stress, laughing at silly things. And meanwhile, I'm also exercising. So I try to prioritize those things. Also, reaching out and social life. Socialization is important. And so making phone calls um, to your loved ones that are positive people in your life. And so you need that 10-minute timeout. And so when I talk to them, and if I haven't had time to get on my treadmill, I have a rule that when they call, I'm not sitting down on the couch, I'm walking. So then I'm nurturing myself in multiple ways.
I love that.
Yeah, I say for me how I recognize when I'm beginning to experience burnout. So there's a few different ways. And it's similar to Dr. Vyas when she talked about frustration, but for me, I label it as irritability. If I'm irritable, if I'm short, that's not my personality. And so that's my sign that, okay, I might be on that beginning stage of burnout. Also, frequent inability to focus, meaning I'm checked out. If I'm checked out at work, then it's usually a sign for me that I might be experiencing some burnout. And then avoidance, if I'm avoiding certain people, certain situations, certain meetings, then I may be starting to experience some burnout. And then lastly, ruminating. That was a big thing for me is the ruminating. If I'm ruminating constantly, that's gonna definitely lead to burnout for me. And so that mind wandering, the replaying of situations or events, and I should have done this, I should have said that. Why did I say this? Why did I handle it that way? That's gonna lead to me burning out. So some of the steps that I take when those things happen is first I check in with myself during the workday because I found out the hard way that waiting until after work to have a bubble bath or a massage is not helpful. I need to check in with myself in the moment in the workday and avoiding avoidance because that's just going to perpetuate the issue if I continue to avoid a person or a situation or put it off. That's just going to perpetuate what my brain is telling me is dangerous or telling me not to do. So I try not to avoid and I try to put myself in those situations to have that experience, whatever that experience is. And then also, and this is a part of my workday routine, especially if I'm feeling irritable or not able to focus, just checking in with myself as far as what is my narrative surrounding work? Because usually my brain is just trying to protect me, but it's not telling the true story. And so if my shoulders are tense, if I'm clenching my jaw, if I'm moving my leg, I'm checking in with myself. Okay, what's going on? What is my brain telling me? And I've noticed that doing that work in the moment is going to help me have an effective and an actual relaxing time outside of work versus waiting until after work to recover from work.
What is one habit or boundary you've developed that helps you manage stress personally and or professionally?
For me, it's the big one is delegation, and I'm still working on that. I have a very bad habit of holding the belief that if I do this myself, it's going to be done the way I want. It'll be done quicker. This is my responsibility, right? And so while it's naturally a part of my role here to delegate quite often, actually, I'm better at it at work. I've started to practice that in my personal life where I have not before. So sitting back and saying, you know what, if I need to call my mom on a Saturday and say, hey, do you want to come spend some time with kids tomorrow? Because I'm feeling like my cup is like at the brim. I'm needing to really like do something for me. That is okay. That doesn't speak about me as a mother. It doesn't speak about me as an individual, how I'm functioning to need to reach out and surround yourself with others. And so circling back to the first question, also I isolate if I'm feeling burnt out and overwhelmed. And so it completely feeds into also that narrative of like, I don't need that. And so that's really where that falls into place for me is being able to sit back and say, okay, like I do not have to do absolutely everything myself. It is okay. It does not speak any negatively way of me if I'm having to reach out to that village I have.
So mine, I actually have two, and they're very tangible. One is I ditched the Apple Watch. Literally, I was constantly the ding and I had to answer. And I just, if I took more than 30 seconds to respond, it just gave me the greatest stress. So I ditched my Apple Watch. I haven't worn it probably 3 months, 4 months now. And it's made a huge difference. And I gave up on the how many steps am I having. That wasn't as important as not having that daily anxiety. The second thing that I did was I turned my phone off every night at 8 o'clock. I was getting phone calls, family, friends, and, you know, my team members 24 hours a day. And so I made an announcement that moving forward, 8 o'clock at night, my phone will go off. And I have been doing that for 6 years now. And it was tough at first, but my goal is to have my me time, because at 8 o'clock at night, there's probably not much you need. And there are ways you can get a hold of me if there really is a crisis going on. And then I get up early, flip it right back on, and I've been able to rest all night. But those are the two most impactful for me.
And for me, the two things that are very important that I consider: preparing and coping. I divide that in two categories. You asked a question about what habits or boundaries. So how do you make habits? Well, actions make habits. And so you have to repeat those actions to make it a habit. So good actions make good habits. Bad actions make bad habits. And I think one of the key element, I think that is not talked about enough. We talk about managing stress, but that you do after the stress happens. While I have a different take on it, I think you have to prepare yourself before even the stress comes. So I think that's what has helped me preparing. That's the first element. And the second part of managing stress is coping when it happens. So how does one prepare oneself? Well, I'm in a medical field, so I'm going to use the analogy. We say that prevention is always better than cure. That's why we have vaccines. Why do you get vaccines? So that you don't get the disease. Also, when all of us, when we're going to go on a long trip, we make sure there's enough gas in the car and there is air in the tire so that you're preventing a crisis. So minimizing stress for yourself, future stress. And so over the period of years, I have prepared myself. What causes stress? Well, sometimes skills. If you don't have skills, then you're very uncomfortable. It causes stress. So I have prepared myself professionally with knowledge, skills that I need, and practice those and keep updated with it. Does that mean I'm 100% expert in everything? No. Over the period of years, when the technology came around, I have to learn new technological skills, PowerPoint, Word, and University Google, and people around me. I use their brain power and their skill set to empower me and prepare for that. So professionally, that's how I have prepared myself and keep continuing to work on it. It hasn't stopped because, new treatment management tools come around. So you want to prepare yourself. So that's one thing. Emotionally, how have I prepared myself? Emotionally, I have developed over the period of time. Again, haven't mastered it, but over the period of time, I have learned more about mindfulness. What are some of the things that works for me? Keeping things in perspective. Also, how to categorize stress, because everything you're looking at is, oh my God, your cortisol is going to go up. Your system is going to react And so keeping things in perspective, so that helps me emotionally not overreact in any situation and be objectively be able to look at it. So that's how I have prepared myself with knowledge, skills. In our field, we work with situation, clinical cases that are complex, comorbidity, challenging individuals, demanding individuals, angry individuals, inappropriate behaviors. Well, how do you handle that? I picked, when I was new in this field, anytime, even when I saw the name of the individual on the uh, schedule, my stomach would start reacting. And that's normal because you're in your early phase of your professional life. You don't have the skill set. But over the period of life, my professional and personal, I have prepared myself how I'm going to manage those individuals. So preparing yourself is a very important. Now next phase is coping. You have to learn some coping skills. And that's where I think some of the mindfulness, meditation, how you manage stress, because stress impacts you emotionally and physically. So you have to figure out a way to de-stress and bring that level down. So you may have a stressful day, but when you come in next day, again, you are your normal self, not as stressed as the evening before, so that you can give yourself to clients, you know, um, and they rely on you. So I have developed mindfulness, I do meditation, exercise, and keep things in perspective and try to be objective about it. So that has helped me.
Yeah, I'll say some of the habits, the boundaries that I developed when I have had moments where I'm ruminating and I recognize it, then I have to engage in an activity that will take my mind off of wherever it's trying to go. And so it has to be something that requires my effort or attention. So that has been chores or projects around the house. Like maybe I just start organizing my closet. Maybe I'll do something that I wanted to do around the house, but just hadn't had the time to do it. Also calling my sisters, one of my sisters will take my mind off of it. And it's not to now ruminate with them. Let me tell you what I'm ruminating about, but to actually have a conversation that isn't cyclical like my thoughts are. And then I haven't done this recently, but cycle bar used to be my thing for a long time and would definitely take me away from any ruminating because I'm just trying to focus on finishing at a nice place because I'm competitive. So those would be the things that would help me. As far as, and this is to kind of really to Dr. Vyas's point, as far as preparing for, I would say that was the most effective. And what I mean by that is I had to tell myself I have to be open to the difficult and uncomfortable parts of my job, not just the good parts, not just the parts that I like. And man, when I did that, it was life-changing for me because for years I was struggling with burnout and didn't know why. I started in the field as a case manager, then became a therapist and moved up from there. But never really took the time to recognize that there are going to be hard parts of this job. And not just of the work, but there are going to be hard parts of the leadership specifically. And even when I first went into management, I was like, oh, this is not for me. I didn't know it was going to be this hard. Let me go back to therapy. And I had to just had a moment with myself, like, if I'm accepting this role, I got to accept the good and the not so good. Because leadership is not glamorous. And even with coming to Texas and accepting this job, I did have a moment to where I got to be comfortable meeting a whole new group of people and trying to find my way and gain that respect. I got to be comfortable learning Texas State Board rules and regulations. I had Oklahoma down. I knew people. I had networks. I mean, I was in the field for over 14 years or so. I had all that. I was in with the Chiefs. I knew people at different organizations. Now I got to go to a whole new state and I got to start from the ground up. And so I had to tell myself before I came here, but this is going to be hard. And I got to be okay with it. I have to be ready, and that's okay. And that really helped me. And it doesn't mean that I don't still do it in the difficult situations now, but it helped prepare me so I wasn't surprised and ready to avoid. So that's it.
No,
Yeah.
Keelah, you are so correct in accepting all parts of the job. And I think in the process, we have to keep in mind that it's not just accepting the parts that we don't like, but it's an opportunity to challenge ourselves and develop a new skill set. And so keep that in mind. It's, even the challenging part of the job are not necessarily negative. Keeping that perspective in mind is so important and being mindful about that. I remember in my early phase of clinical life, there were some days that it would just, at the end of the day, I would feel drained. And then I started asking myself, why did that happen? But then when I would look at the schedule, I realized that I had too many complex cases of different intensity that drained my emotional energy at the end of the day. And so while I had to learn to cope with all kind of clinical situation, I still could modify it, and then I learned to become mindful so that I wouldn't schedule the same complex cases in 1 week if they were coming back, not on the same day. So I just moved them a day or two here and there, clinically appropriate. So now my emotional energy was more balanced. So you have to think about those things while you still continue to learn and challenge.
Yes, yeah. And I think, yeah, and Dr. Vyas, I completely agree. And when you can accept that and it's a positive thought in your head, then you can do the things that you're in control of to make it manageable. So like you said, you were able to organize your schedule to make it more manageable. But if you're in that thought of defeat, or this is too much, I can't do this, then you just get stuck and you can't exert that energy where it needs to be, like you said, to organize your schedule to make it more manageable.
Keelah, you hit it on the nail. And some of you who know me, they know that I like to tell stories. So if you indulge me with a story, talk about work-life balance. So my son was younger, and he was in kindergarten at that time. And I dropped him off at the kindergarten and came to DOPC. As I took the exit, my car started making some weird noises. I'm no auto mechanic and don't claim to have a whole lot of knowledge, but I said, car is running, no red light has come on the board and on the dashboard, so I'm going to keep driving because I was just around the corner. And so I made a turn on the street and it made some more noises, but it was still driving, so I parked in the parking lot. All of a sudden, all the red lights on the dashboard came up, and there was some kind of white fumes come out of the underneath the hood. So I quickly stepped away, and it quickly died down. And as I was walking towards the door, my response was, "Oh no! Oh my God!" Whenever the car trouble starts, number one, it has dollar signs attached to that, expenses. Meanwhile, what's going to happen? Who's going to pick up my son? My husband was traveling, so he was out of town. How am I going to get home? And all the stress of having to call the tow truck and all those thoughts came to my head, and I was so discouraged. But as I was walking towards the door, and that's where the practice and training and mindfulness comes in. You have to practice it. It doesn't come naturally. As I was walking towards the door, it just dawned on me. If the same thing had happened half an hour earlier, the breakdown, I would be stranded on a busy road. My son would have missed the school, tow trucks don't come right away. So we would be sitting on the side of the road for probably 1 or 2 hours. I would have to call work, reschedule all the clients, and they needed me. And all I had to do is that didn't get affected. I just needed to go in, see my clients, pick up the phone, call my friends, and said, hey, when you pick up your son, can you also pick my son as well? And then somebody else helped and come pick me up. So that mindset as I was walking towards the door helped me completely in a different frame of mind. And I was able to take care of all the clients on my schedule. And I felt good about it. Then I'm glad I was able to do that, because the other thing, the facts weren't going to change, whether it happened now or earlier. But I said, hey, so many things, I could do now with a positive attitude instead of feeling stressed out all day long and possibly impacting how I interacted with clients that day. So when you enter that door, make sure that you are available to your clients because they rely on you. You are very valuable. Your role is very valuable, and feel good about it. So thank you for listening to my story.
What is one thing you've done to create a safe space and honest conversations about burnout or mental health at work?
For me personally, something I'm really big on is transparent leadership, and then also just creating psychologically safe spaces for staff. I think those are two really important things that, like, as a leader, you want to provide so that people do feel comfortable coming to you if they are experiencing something. Because I'm sure there's things all the time going on that, don't make it to our radar. And we can't offer help if we don't know. So it's very important to me to be transparent with them, maintaining boundaries, of course. We don't get into the weeds of it, but it's okay to tell your staff, like, I'm going to take a mental health day tomorrow. It's okay to tell your staff, for example, I had a staff ask me, like, why did you get out of clinical work and get into admin? And it's okay to share with staff, like, hey, clinical work was a little heavy for me and how my personality is set up. This is something I thrive in more. I think just giving little pieces of yourself can really help your staff feel like they can also connect with you more, while still, of course, like maintaining those boundaries and being very careful of that. I just think it creates a safer space for everybody to do the same in return. So just doing anything I can so that any level of staff under me, whether it's one of my directors, one of my managers, one of my frontline staff, like, feel okay to just walk in my office. Well, knock, of course, but I'm available, right? So as long as they know, like, Jess is there to be able to listen to this type of stuff, as well as, all of the work things, that's really what I want to perpetuate to everybody.
And, I would piggyback off of something Jess just said. The transparency factor as a leader, if we are not transparent about struggling with the same issues that every one of our team members do, and with burnout, they are not going to come to us because they're not going to think we understand. So I am a firm believer in that transparency, to the point that I talk to my team that burnout in our field is 2 to 5 years, and it's usually closer to the 2 mark. Of course, there's always those people that get in it and automatically know it's not for them and leave. But for the most part, burnout is 2 to 5 years. That seems relatively short. And that doesn't matter if you're sitting at the front desk or if you're one of our providers. There's unique issues for each of it. So I actually talk with my team about that 2 to 5 year window. I want them to be prepared that it's going to come. You will experience, you'll get to that point, right? So what do we do to identify it, and how do we keep from getting there? The other thing is, I talk to all of my team, if they are struggling, let's talk about it being okay to go to EAP or to a therapist. And I definitely, if I see somebody really struggling, one of the things I do is look and see how much PTO they have. Because if they're that person that's banking all that PTO, thinking I'll never take it and will hold it to the end, they are at a higher risk of burnout. And so if I'm seeing those really high available PTO numbers we're having a talk about what are you doing to take care of yourself. That's pretty much mine.
I think what I do is bunch of things. Open door policy, and let people know that I am available, and that they can reach me. I'm just a phone call away. The other thing I have done is I talk about it in staff meeting, or whenever I have a platform, when we are doing difficult case consultation. I generally ask whoever the case manager is working with that case, and I remind supervisors that, and I acknowledge myself, and I let people know that countertransference and burnout is normal. It's common, that I experience it myself. Let's talk about it. Let's process it, and then give them tools based on the level they may be at. So you provide them with tools how to cope with some of the situation and some of the emotionals. Over the period of years, I have noticed that burnout is not about just the clinical work, but it's because of the system issues. And so I also look for the opportunity that if my team is struggling and other people are struggling, can something be done from system or workflow point of view that can ease some of the stress that the staff may be experiencing? It could be the technology, it could be the workflow. And so over the period of years, whenever there is an opportunity to make some practical changes to help the staff minimize some of the burnout because of the system issues, I have been vocal about it and would focus on the solutions of it. So that's what I have done.
So I echo what everyone is saying. I do try to operate it under transparency leadership. I think that's important and honest in and of itself, with boundaries, of course, because we don't want to put stress on our employees by doing too much of that. But also recognizing with the staff that the work that we do is hard, and especially as caring human beings. So I don't minimize it. And I also, and this was actually the hardest part for me, I don't try to jump into problem solving, because that can be damaging as well, because then you're acting like the savior and you have all the answers. So there are definitely system improvements that we as leadership can do. Sometimes we just need to listen, and sometimes, like Dr. Vyas said, normalize what they're feeling. And I try to make it a point at every supervision and even impromptu meetings to just, before we get into the business aspect of it, how are you doing? And sometimes, and I don't know how this came about or when in my leadership I started doing this, but I will say the person's name when I say it. So let's say I'm meeting with Jim Bob. How's Jim Bob doing? Because I want them to truly check in with themselves in the moment and truly tell me how they are doing. I'm comfortable with silence. So we got to sit there so you can think about it. Silence does not bother me. And so just being genuine and curious and being calm and not reacting is how I try to create that safe space for that conversation.
How do you respond when a team member is struggling, not just with performance, but emotionally?
I'm going to draw back to what Keelah said, because whenever we look at this dynamic between performance and how am I really doing, we actually at this point do need to introduce the problem solving aspect. And so with this specifically, it's, obviously you make yourself available. If you do see someone struggling, you 100% address it with them. But yeah, it's really about assessing what the need is. These things go hand in hand a lot of the time. When I see performance issues, there's something going on at home. Most of the time is what's happening. So really looking at that and meeting the staff where they are. But with this specifically, I would say at the very root of it, it is about truly finding that balance between the problem solving aspect. So me giving them the tools they need to be successful in their role and maintain, whatever performance standards that we have set for whatever specific program they're working in, but also being empathetic, supportive, and understanding to any underlying emotional issues that are present as well. So really, truly caring about what they're going through while pairing that with, like, yes, this is happening and I want to be here and sit with you and really empathize with you on it. And then over here, but we need to see this at work. So how do we bridge that gap together is how I like to approach that.
So I wanted to say I talk to them, but I don't. I actually listen to them. And I will say the question that I always, when I get around to that, because oftentimes people will just come and sit, or they'll cry. They're just, that was it. Stepping through the door was their release. But my question is always, what can I do to help? And the usual answer is, oh, you can't do anything. I need to. They have their own answer. And it's just like therapy, our clients have their answers. We're just pulling it out of them. But the same with our team. They know what they need. They just don't know how to verbalize it. And sometimes that, what can we do? And then when they come up with something, okay, how can we make this happen? Whether it be work, whether it be home, or a combination, or whatever's going on. But just being there and letting them have that space to just be.
Constant, I think you brought up a very important point about listening to them. And I think it's so important, not just talking to them, but listening and letting them know. And so when I see a staff member struggling, listen to them and also understand what's really going on with them about the situation, because you know your team and you know that somebody else on the team with different experience, different background may or may not have reacted the same way. So there is a reason why this individual has responded and is struggling. And so understand them, be curious, understand, listen to them, and then ask them if they have any suggestions, how they plan to manage. And sometimes they know, sometimes they don't. And if that's the case, you give them the tools, because not just necessarily at that moment, but also you as a supervisor, you keep in mind that they're going to need some skill set so that they can cope with it better. And I think helping over the period of time, helping them recognize that there is a difference between sympathy and empathy. Because if you are blurring the boundary because of your own struggle, then what's going to happen that is not going to be helpful to the client, or it's not going to be helpful to you to resolve the situation. So helping them draw the emotional boundary, that even firefighters, when they go to put out a fire, they have some guidelines. They are not just going to jump into the fire, because they can do a better job being a little bit outside of the fire, in putting it out, than be inside with them, in the fire. So I think that takes some time and experience. Over the period of years, I have learned that what means stress for individual staff. They all speak different languages. I have one staff that likes to just, at the end of the day, give me a call and then just talk about some difficult cases. The other staff, leave me alone. I know what to do. A simple note is enough for them that, hey, great job. I know it was a complex schedule today. So I have learned the emotional language of the staff around me so that I can be helpful in my intervention the way that it works, and giving them tools.
So first, if I had a team member or a staff member who was struggling, not just with performance, but emotionally, I thought about like tangibly what I would do in the moment. And first, I'm closing my laptop, I'm ignoring my phone, I'm ignoring the knocks at my door, so that I can be present and be respectful. And then, just like everybody else has said, I'm just gonna listen. I'm gonna listen and hear what they're trying to tell me. And then, like Jess had said, we still have the performance goal that we have to meet. And so in that, I'll have that honest conversation. After they told me what's going on, this is where we need to meet. Now let's talk about how we get there. And that's going to include me asking, what would you like to see from me, or what help can I provide to you to help you get there? And allow them to answer that. And if they're not sure, or they're struggling with that, then inviting a conversation on some ideas that I have and getting their input, because I need their buy-in, and I need to know what's realistic for them, what's doable. And so having that conversation, and then, if as appropriate, obviously EAP resources, because as the leadership, we can't be the counselor. And so definitely referring them to the appropriate resources. But that is the hope, is that staff have that comfortability to come and talk to me. And that's honestly one of the reasons why I make it a point to be in the office every day, because I want to be available to whoever needs it, not just my staff, but whoever needs it. I want to be present as much as I can. And sometimes, when you're having those moments, you're looking for who's here. You're not wanting to make a phone call. You need somebody that's physically present. And so that is one of the ways that I actively respond, is I try to be physically present. So that's all.
Now, it's interesting that you don't realize that some of your small actions, can be meaningful for some of the staffs. Usually towards the end of the day, if I'm not with the client or in a meeting, then I have my door open. And usually that's the time people will be leaving. They walk by my office. And how much mentorship, how much listening, how much learning takes place between 4:30 and 6 o'clock. And so even just being available and keeping your door open, I think that's very helpful. I have people ask me question about they're going to apply for some position. What are my thoughts, or a clinical situation, or personal situation, just keeping your door open and being available to listen, I think is so valuable.
What is a resource that has made a big difference for you, whether that be a book, an app, a podcast, therapy, etc.? Anything under the sun?
For me, the way my personality is set up, I can't sit down and read a book. I cannot sit down and listen to a podcast. It's like I need to use this time to do other things, which is problematic. So therapy for me is great. I don't do it as much as I should. But for me, it's, I'm not ever just like, man, I'm so excited for therapy today. But I do know it's going to force me to sit down and focus for at least 50 minutes on what's going on in here. I think it really is helpful. And it's a tool that, if anyone listening is like, that doesn't sound like a fun time, because I don't really want to dig into what's up here that I've very carefully tucked away. Try it, try it out. Even a session a month it's beneficial, especially if you're someone who does, like me, tend to kind of take the uncomfortable things and put them over here and really kind of run yourself ragged on the other end of like, I'm putting value into what I can accomplish tangibly. Really looking at these things and saying, okay, like what's healthy? Am I taking care of myself emotionally? Because I feel like I can't necessarily take care of staff, coworkers, kids, family members in the way that I would like to if I am constantly having this type of a behavior happening where, I'm taking the uncomfortable things, putting them over here, and then I'm really looking at kind of burning myself out on this end. So therapy for me.
So I have a couple of things. Again, seems to be 2 is my number today. I want to give you a book, and it's called The Fred Factor. This book is, no matter what your reading level is, you can get it done in about an hour. Super simple. And it's not talking about burnout. It's more about what is my attitude. So it makes you internally reflect on what's going on with you. And that really is a positive impact. It's a super simple read. Great read. So The Fred Factor. The other thing, though, that I do is I connect with others that are peers, but not from my place of employment. And the reason I say that is if I'm sitting here and I'm really upset about what's going on at work, and I'm only connecting with my workplace peers, we're feeding that negativity with each other. So if I can connect with my peers, and I mean, I'm not saying don't talk to your peers at work, but if I can connect to a peer that's external, not a yes person, right? You don't want somebody that's just going to, yeah, you're right. You want somebody that's going to give you a realistic, hey, I hear you, but let's look at this in a different way, or maybe you could do this. So, yeah, the Fred Factor and then connecting would be my options.
So for me, what has made a big difference? I don't think it's just one thing. It's a combination of things over the period of years. There are different things at a different point in life that were helpful. So one of the things I find it very helpful is learning about mindfulness. And it's interesting when you look at the concept of mindfulness, it has been there for centuries. It's called different things, but I think that has helped me stay objective, stay centered, and I remind that myself every day that I can't pour from an empty cup. And I'm in a profession, or I think that applies to anybody, that if you don't have anything to give, then you can't really give. And so I'm mindful of my cup and make sure it's not empty. When it reaches that level, then make sure I need to own it. I need to take some steps to fill it so I can still keep giving. And that takes some training. And there is a terminology. It's, I think, Hindi or Sanskrit word. I don't know. Not language expert. But it says that one needs to develop skills that you live your life like jal, kamal, what? Jal means water. Kamal means lotus flower. Where does it grow? In the water, but it's not wet. The water reflects off of it. So one thing I tell myself is don't let anyone or any situation, just one situation, define you or get you off kilter, so that you can stay objective. You're not swayed in one direction this way or the other direction that way. And that has helped me over the period of time be able to continue to do what I enjoyed doing, helping individuals, client and staff and other people around me, but at the same time, be able to stay true to myself and still enjoy doing what I do without emptying my cup.
Yeah, for me, this book is a training I took years ago, and I got the book, and this has been the most helpful, and it's called The Components for Enhancing Clinician Experience and Reducing Trauma by Dr. Brian Miller. And it talked about skills for sustaining a career in the helping field. And for me, that's what I had longed for, because I know this is the field I'm supposed to be in. I just needed the tools to help sustain me in this career and to reduce the trauma from all the stories and the things I was being exposed to. And so I'm so grateful for the training, and I would highly recommend it to direct care staff, those working in TPS, and to leadership, those providing supervision, because we all could definitely use it. And one of my biggest goals, I know this is cliche, but one of my biggest goals was having a life or building a life that I didn't feel like I had to escape from. That was my biggest goals. And now, since I've retrained my brain, I've rewrote my narrative surrounding work and what I think it's supposed to be. I don't feel like I have to escape. I don't feel like I gotta wait for that vacation to feel good. I can feel good while at work. I just gotta train my brain and rewrite what I had previously told myself about this field. So that's what I would recommend, is the book.
And I think a couple of things, if I can recommend to our staff, is that reach out. You're not alone. Please reach out so that we can help you, give you tools that you need, and you're not alone. So just reach out. We are here to help.
Thank you guys so much for your insight and for sharing everything you've shared today. I know we really appreciate it. And thank you, audience members, for listening to our panel. And have a wonderful day, everyone.